course, the news already carried the fact that yesterday the new Minister of TIAT, Tourism, Economic Affairs, Traffic and Communication, has been appointed and sworn in yesterday. The screening was completed, and immediately thereafter we went over to swearing in the new minister. So on behalf of the entire Council of Ministers, I want to publicly congratulate Mrs. Melissa Arundel Doncher and wish her welcome to the Council of Ministers. Talk about hitting the ground running. Well, she came straight from the swearing-in ceremony and had to attend her first Council of Ministers meeting yesterday, which actually was in session, and we adjourned the meeting to join her on that momentous occasion. We hope with this now the opposition would stop questioning when a minister of TIAT would be appointed. There are those who are asking the same questions, seem to forget that it had taken their government some 9 months to appoint all their ministers. This government had taken office on the 20th of December, and just over 3 months, all the ministers are in place. Actually, the majority of them had been in place on the 20th, and the Minister of TIAT had taken some extra time, but when we compare that to the 9 months that their government had taken, we think that we have done very well. So again, Melissa, welcome, and knowing you, the stern person that you are, you already have your cabinet lined up and in order attentively, so we look forward to great things happening in the ministry. In a few moments, Minister Arundel Doncher will make some brief remarks, and I ask the indulgence of the media to hold off on any questions until next week, as she has just gotten into office today. So she will sit in and get a feel of how things are, but I ask your indulgence to save your questions for next week. On the 20th of March, a few days ago, we received a letter, as I said in last week's press briefing, that, you know, I was sort of breaking my silence, and we had a meeting last Friday with the SGs and the department heads. Basically, we can say all of them were in attendance, which was extremely good. The few open seats that we had were those of the Minister of Education and her SG and department heads who had joined her to their business trip to Cuba, where they attended meetings and a conference. But other than that, we can safely say 99% of the SG civil department heads and the members of the cabinets of the ministers were in attendance. The letter we received on the 20th of March was a letter from Minister Plasterk announcing that he was submitting on Friday upcoming for handling, not submitting, but submitted to the Kingdom Council of Ministers, which will be handled on Friday, a draft to give St. Martin an instruction and to implement an integrity chamber. Now, does this come as a surprise? Probably not. We know that several weeks ago, Minister Plasterk, out of the clear blue, as far as we are concerned, had an announcement leaked in the media in the Netherlands, and then there were apologies that it was not the intention to do it that way, that it was sort of confidential and should not have been leaked to the media, but they decided that they were appointing Mr. Laytons as the quartermaster for the integrity chamber on St. Martin. That had triggered an entire debate, and I had told the media here that I was not going to respond anymore as we were to meet in Aruba. When we met in Aruba, it was a hectic meeting, and Minister Plaster couldn't convince me as to his valid reasons for wanting to appoint a quartermaster for St. Martin at this stage of the developments, which is known to everybody, and I would not go into the details anymore that resulted with the decision of the Constitutional Court. At the end of the meeting, when Minister Gibson, I think, who was with me in the meeting, asked, "So what now? What are we going to tell the media?" He responded that, "Well, don't say anything to the media. Just let us agree that we would disclose that we had discussions and that the discussions will continue." I said, "I can live with that," and I did abide by the agreement we made. I came back to St. Martin. Actually, I stayed in Aruba for other meetings. I came back to St. Martin, never said that we discussed this, that, or the other, or we had our differences about this one, that one, or the other. When his Secretary General was on Sabre on his way back from Statia, I think, from Statia, he made contact with Minister Gibson, trying to, well, seeking, asking Minister Gibson if the Prime Minister would be willing to come to Holland because they want to appoint this quartermaster and things like that. Minister Gibson said, "Well, you have to take it up with the Prime Minister." I then, upon return, had my Secretary General, Mr. Plantain, send an email to the Secretary General of the Minister Plasterk in the Netherlands, asking for clarity as to exactly the parameters of the discussion, given our discussions in Aruba. Should I say, as expected? Not necessarily, I would say as expected, but unfortunately, to this date, we have not received a reply, not even the courtesy of, "Well, I've received your email, the minister will get back to you." Zero, nada, zilch. Therefore, I am leaving on Air France this afternoon to the Netherlands. I will be attending the Kingdom Council of Ministers meeting on Friday, and I will address this topic when it comes on the agenda. Will it help? Probably not. Probably not, in the sense that when we look at the draft that they have sent us, it is 17 pages of the draft law and some 28 pages of elucidation to the draft law. They have sent it on the 20th, giving us just about 2.5 weeks to, if you want to call it, prepare for this or to respond to it. Just like every other piece of legislation, this was sent to our local Council of Advice, and it is just last night, I believe it is, that they have kind of rushed to make their advice, which has to come to us via the governor. So the possibility exists that I would be leaving before we actually receive the actual advice from our Council of Advice. But this is just to show that even though Minister Plasterk is part of a caretaker government, he means that at all cost, he got to strangle St. Martin with this measure of supervision to implement an integrity chamber, even though the main reason why the Constitutional Court gave a negative advice is because of all those conditions that were set by the Dutch government insisting, and that is why I said they did not appoint their quartermaster. I might sound a bit rambling, but the Dutch had an obligation based on the agreement to appoint a quartermaster to work along with the St. Martin quartermaster. And their deadline was July 31st, 2015. They had never, not in July, not in August, not in September, never appointed their quartermaster. But what they did, they had their people in discussion with the Legal Affairs Department of St. Martin and twisting and bending and forcing them to implement, to put into the draft legislation for the Integrity Chamber, to put in those things that Holland insisted on having put in. As you would know, it's no public secret, I was in Parliament at the time and I voted against, and I would continue to vote against. I will oppose it in the form that the Dutch government would want to see it. And if they still insist on giving St. Martin an instruction, then so be it. Then so be it, and let them send the troops to implement, to force their will upon the people of St. Martin. Because no way can they justify legally placing St. Martin under, giving St. Martin an instruction to force an institution like that on St. Martin. When you read the elucidations and you read the reason why, it is all old nonsense and junk, just to paint it as if St. Martin is one cesspool of corruption, the underworld and the upper wall in collusion. But here we have Hero Brinkman, the former police officer, member of parliament, arrested. We have the former Minister of Justice, had to leave office because of his collusion with the underworld drug dealers. There were no TBO team going to his home to take away what may have been proceeds from his connections with the drug lords. No arrest was made. Nobody picked him up 5 o'clock in the morning and questioned him. We haven't heard of such things. But yet, with all that St. Martin has done over the past years, since 10-10-10, we have the most modern constitution in the kingdom. And thank God, we should say, that we had the vision to put in place a constitutional court that stands above the politicians, that says the politicians also need to respect the Constitution. And we have seen, like I told the civil servants in the meeting on Friday, we have seen even in the United States, where a president elected by the people signs an executive order because he is the president, and the Supreme Court says, no, it is in violation of our Constitution. You cannot carry it out. Yet, they want to implement. They want to use the situation of 2015 and probably before to say that we need to come with this. And I'm saying no. If we want to talk, we're going to talk on the basis of equality. We have 4 countries in this kingdom, because if I'm good enough as Prime Minister of St. Martin to campaign for the kingdom, to secure a UN security seat for the kingdom, but then when we are dealing with each other within the kingdom, then I become your colony once again, that you can trample upon any day that you feel like and you desire. And I'm saying, no, it will not be accepted. Not by me. Not by me. So I don't want to use up the entire press briefing. I have a meeting to prepare for my meetings. So I bid you farewell as I leave. Not that I don't want to take any questions, but I really have a meeting. And if you want to ask me questions, you can come to the office around 12 o'clock. I will be free then. Just before I leave, I can come at the airport and catch me before I board. But I want to thank you. And all I can say is keep posted. I will stay in contact with you and through you with the people of St. Martin, because I believe this is not a battle between the Prime Minister of St. Martin and Plasterk. This is a battle between the people of St. Martin, who I think we need to stand up once and for all. Once and for all. I am not condoning corruption. I'm not condoning integrity breaches. I'm not condoning wrongdoing. But I'm saying we, as the government of St. Martin, we can and are able and willing to clean up the mess that we have. Who is cleaning up the mess in Holland? Holland is supposed to clean up their mess. Who's cleaning up the mess in Japan? The Japanese are supposed to clean up theirs. And in St. Kitts, the Kittians are cleaning up theirs, and so are the Anguillians doing. When they're talking about the people don't have confidence in the government, we have had an exceptionally high voters turnout just 2 mornings ago, so to speak. If the people didn't have confidence, we had an election in 2014, and people were called to the polls again in 2016. Yet, a substantial amount of our people, and we know there are numbers of our people who are registered but don't live here, our people came out to vote. When we compare, and I'm not throwing my colleagues or our neighbors under the bus, but we look at the voters' turnout on the French side. 2 elections back to back. One, the first one, and the second one, the voters' turnout was low. When we compare the voters' turnout in some of the other islands in the region, lower than St. Martin. So if the people have lost confidence and they're crying out to who? The people have expressed their will to vote, and that has to be respected. I will not, under any circumstances, at least these kind of circumstances, cooperate with any instruction. Thank you and have a good day.
Good morning to my colleague ministers, members of the media, TV viewers, radio listeners, and those viewing or listening by other means. As this is my first time in front of you, I would like to read a prepared statement. Don't worry, I won't be doing this every press briefing. Allow me first to express how honored and privileged I am to be standing here today, taking on the responsibilities in the service of the people of St. Martin. I would like to thank the Honorable Prime Minister for his patience and guidance in the process that has led us to this moment, and His Excellency, the Governor of St. Martin, Dr. Anders Eugene Holliday, for his due diligence and his encouraging words during yesterday's swearing-in ceremony. I would also like to thank the leader of the USP party, Honorable MP Franz Richardson, and the board of the USP for their faith and confidence to nominate me for this position. I am sure that we are all amazed at where the road following the parliamentary elections has led. But as they say, everything happens for a reason. I would also like to thank the Honorable Minister of Justice, Raphael Bosman, who at times had carried the responsibilities for 3 ministries. I have had the pleasure of working with Minister Bosman the past few months, and his advice and guidance has been invaluable. I think Minister Bosman has done an incredible job, and I can only hope to match that level of energy and drive as I start my tenure. Lastly, I would like to thank 2 families. First, my immediate family, my husband and children, my father, my brother, and extended family for your love and support. The second family, the Cabinet of the Ministry of TIAC, who will be introduced to the public via press release later today. Together with Minister Bosman, this cabinet has worked diligently over the past few months in executing the tasks of the ministry. Cabinet TIAC is a hard-working, dedicated group of public servants who have never stopped working since this government was sworn in. I would like to commend them, and I look forward to doing great things together as a dynamic team. I hold no misconceptions about the work ahead for St. Martin and what is expected of the Ministry of TIAC. Government recently released its government program, which is our roadmap, so to speak, for the next 4 years. In the next few days, I will elaborate more on TIAC's priorities moving forward. Many of our goals and objectives require that all ministries work together in order to meet those objectives. I have the utmost confidence that The Council of Ministers will continue to put St. Martin and the well-being of its people first. While the urgent and pending issues to be tackled are plenty and known publicly, the ministry will be very active in communicating with the public regarding its initiatives and plans. Contrary to some sentiments, I want to assure the people of St. Martin that crucial work in the tourism sector is being executed and our product is not collapsing as is perceived by others. I choose to give more credit to the people, civil servants, that they are in positions to continue to do the work for the tourism sector on behalf of government. We will counter negative narrative through hard work and facts. As leaders, we are entrusted with the unique opportunity to work together for a strong and secure future for St. Martin. We couldn't do this job without accepting and understanding that the people of St. Martin are constant reminders of why everything we do here matters. I stand here today with confidence as I see greatness in St. Martin. I feel it, I believe it, it's who we are. And that is how we approach governing, not with fear, but with confidence, with recognition of depths of our challenges and with confidence that together we can solve them. I thank you.
As you know, there was with the construction of the new hospital. As you know, a press release was sent out that a settlement was reached between SZV and VAMED. So with that settlement, the lawsuit which was impeding the progress of the construction of the new general hospital has been removed. So therefore, progress has begun now on restarting the conversations with financiers. So as you know, previously, we were at the stage with searching for financing for the hospital. Those discussions had stopped due to the court case, and those discussions are now starting again. Re-engaging INSO, the contractor who had been involved in the design process and had reached a certain phase in that development where they required feedback, and again, due to the court case, that has stopped, and they're being re-engaged in terms of how we're going to move forward with the project. You know, for the public, you know, there's been some discussions, and this is a topic that was touched on in Parliament, but not really, I think, covered that much in the media. In that, when we made a evaluation, or when parties involved had the discussion about should we settle or not, on the one hand, there was a discussion about we didn't do anything wrong, the process was a good process, we believe the judgment from the courts was flawed, and therefore, perhaps from an ego perspective, or perhaps to show that we've done the right thing, to continue the lawsuit to demonstrate that would be, let's say, emotionally satisfying. But when you look at the business case and you look at the needs of the community, in our opinion, anything that delivers the hospital sooner is financially responsible. Because in all of the situations, when you looked at the different scenarios, if you continued with the appeal, even if you win, the delay that it would cost would be probably at least a year. And the financing charges that would be incurred, the penalties that would be incurred for that delay, as well as all the legal costs, would exceed probably the kind of numbers that we were talking about. And then there's all different scenarios of retendering the project, in which case the contractor INSO who had received the bid would probably sue and start another legal battle. So when you looked at all of the different options from a business perspective, while it's not really very pleasant or very palatable to pay a settlement, for the interest of the country, financially it's the right thing to do, and more importantly, for the health of our population, I think it was the right thing to do. So I'm happy that the project is moving forward.
Well, again, let me congratulate Melissa. I'm happy that she's here. We have another woman in the Council of Ministers, full Council of Ministers, and I'm pretty sure she's going to do exceptionally well. And I can speak a little because, as the Prime Minister made mention that she hit the ground running, we in the Council of Ministers have been working on finalizing Back Street. And I have had discussions with the minister prior to Melissa, Mr. Boseman. And I remember talking to Melissa about it. I brought her the advice. Minister, I have to get accustomed to it. But at the time, she wasn't the minister at the time. And she looked at the advice, and her words to me were, it will get done. And the advice is complete. It's going to come, and Back Street will be finalized, and it will get done as soon as possible, or even probably by the end of April. Back Street will be complete. And I want to thank Minister Boseman for that. At the time when he took the initiative to look at the advice, he discussed it with Melissa, as she was the chief of staff, I believe. And that's the testament to getting things done and putting our foot forward and dealing with the issues that we are facing here in St. Martin. So that is one issue that I wanted to highlight a bit. Thanks to the Ministry of TIAT, because the funding and the budget is coming from the Ministry of TIAT, and VROMI will be executing the project. So again, I want to also thank them very much for their cooperation. Also, you know, it's a good thing for me today because I've been working on a project from time I came in, and it also goes to one of our priorities that we have in the Ministry of VROMI and also within our governing program, which is affordable housing. I have managed to brought a developer, I managed to get in contact with a buyer, and I managed to get in contact with a seller that had land that they was willing to negotiate and sort of move forward with affordable housing for the people of St. Martin. And I can safely say that we will be very soon constructing about 160 homes. And by the end of this year, 50 of those homes will be complete, 100% financing. And it's a good thing for the people of St. Martin, because I remember the Minister of Education brought to my attention a couple, I believe they are police officers, I stand corrected on that, I don't remember, where they are paying $1,200 in rent for a home.